speak to you today on behalf of the growing grassroots coalition, Save Asbury's Waterfront. It's an honor to welcome you here to Asbury Park, and I offer sincere thanks to the community leaders and elected officials who are here today to offer their statements of support. The north end of Asbury Park is a rare and dynamic junction of nature and culture. It contains a 0.4-mile-long tract of undeveloped open space adjacent to the coastline, perhaps one of the largest in Monmouth County. The north end is where Asbury residents and visitors bring our dogs to play. It's where we surf and fly kites and swim, where we ride our bikes and walk the historical herringbone boards. It's where we hold town bonfires and Asbury Park Family Day. It's where we admire the wooden walls murals at Sunset Pavilion on our way to eat, drink, shop, and be entertained in the magnificent and crumbling Convention Hall in Paramount Theater. The North End is where 25,000 people came together at the end of September for See Here Now, an amazing celebration of our city's music, art, surf, and natural resources. This area is deeply special to me, and it seems that I am not alone. On October 8th, real estate developer iStar Financial commenced construction on the North End without notice or detail. And here we are 1 month later with no explanation why the boardwalk pilings were ripped out. We have no explanation why the boardwalk north of Convention Hall is pitch black at night. We have no explanation why the free parking lot is closed, and we have not yet seen any display models or articles in the press about how amazing the new north end of Asbury Park is going to be. According to the construction plans obtained by the Open Public Records Act, iStar's new boardwalk will bump out further east onto the existing beach, and then will abruptly go from 64 feet wide down to a 15-foot wide pathway. And the area sandwiched between the Atlantic Ocean and Deal Lake, known as Fisherman's Lot, will be paved with impervious coverage. These plans are already underway without public input. We know that iStar plans to build a pool and beach club with an exclusive atmosphere, intended for the residents of the Asbury Ocean Club, which is iStar's new luxury high-rise going up 4 blocks away from the proposed beach club location. These developments on the north end will discourage public enjoyment of the boardwalk and beach. They will affect our fragile and changing coastal environment. These developments will not promote diversity and social inclusion, and when iStar commences the pool club construction, it will be developing on one of the largest coastal open spaces in Monmouth County. Save Asbury's Waterfront seeks to foster and encourage appropriate development along Asbury Park's waterfront. We want development that will maximize social inclusion and provide access for all residents and visitors. We want development that will recognize current coastal guidelines and development practices. We want development that is sensitive to wildlife habitats, pollution, and other environmental concerns, and we want development that is transparent during all phases of planning and implementation. We want iStar to immediately stop its ongoing construction that is based on outdated plans approved in 2004. Asbury Park has undergone tremendous change in 15 years, and iStar's current development initiatives on the north end no longer suit our city. Instead, we want iStar to use its innovation and vast resources to develop transparent, forward-looking plans for Asbury's waterfront. Thank you, and it's my pleasure to turn the podium over to my friend, my neighbor, Dr. Madeline Monaco. She's one of the organizers.
Thank you. Thanks very much. As Kathleen said, my name is Dr. Madeline Monaco. I live on the north end of the waterfront, and I live there because it's a quieter part of town. I'm vehemently opposed to the development plan going on right now for many reasons you'll hear about today, including the transparency that Kathleen mentioned. We've had no opportunity for public comment. You'll hear from others today about all that is wrong and unjust about this plan. I'd like to expand upon the restriction of public access to the waterfront. Let's be clear, iStar's plan will inhibit diversity, inclusion, public use, and enjoyment of our beach areas. Let me paint the picture for you. Imagine the previous 64-foot wide boardwalk, which is totally gone now. Most people think it's just being replaced the way it was because it was old and worn. That is not what's happening. The boardwalk will be reduced to a 15-foot wide meandering footpath with no benches and no railings, and will be surrounded by very high, probably 18-foot high dunes that will also block views of the ocean even from the pathway. And here's the point that you would miss if you are like most citizens of Asbury Park who don't know what iStar is doing because there's no public website. There's no explanation of what's going on. Picture this, a narrow 15-foot pathway that will lead from the free parking in the Fisherman's parking lot that's going to be paved with 110 parking spaces down to 7th Avenue, where iStar plans to build a private, exclusive pool and beach club with a separate direct entrance to the beach. There are so many things wrong with this plan. First, who do you think is going to park in that parking lot? Not the people that it's meant for, the fishermen, the surfers, the people who can't afford to park anywhere else along the waterfront. The fishermen's parking lot must remain free. Who do you think is going to park there? The people who are going to use that beach club. They're going to park in that lot, and it's going to look like they've got their own little private meandering pathway, 15-foot wide, that's going to lead to this exclusive beach club that will only be able to be afforded by the wealthy people. We see people every day, many from the west side of town, who already have to wait until 5 o'clock p.m. to come to the beach because they can't afford to pay to get on the beach. And they don't feel welcome in the gentrified environment. Now they won't even have a free place to park in the summer, and what's even worse, they will feel even more out of place and unwelcomed because there will be an exclusive beach club in their faces. Who do you think is going to be able to afford the pool club? I know firsthand that the pool club is being advertised as an amenity for the people who will purchase the multi-million-dollar condominiums that are going up at 1101 Ocean Avenue that iStar is building. This 16-year-old coastal waterfront development permit that iStar is hiding behind dictates that anything built on the waterfront has to be for public use. How is an exclusive pool club serving the public? I'm cutting my comments down because I have to keep it to 3 minutes. Okay, all right, I'll finish up. Okay, so let me just finish by saying this. iStar is slick. They have millions of dollars to pay for powerful lawyers and public relations people spinning their story so it sounds like it's the best plan since sliced bread. What they don't have is the support of Asbury citizens and the power of our people and our state's newly elected officials. I implore you to join us, fight, and not let iStar hold our city hostage. And I'm going to close with a quote from John Lennon, which I'm wearing today. You may say I'm a dreamer, but I'm not the only one. We have thousands of supporters. We got over 3,200 signatures on our petition in just 5 days. So please join us and fight this development. Yeah.
I'm third generation of Asbury Park. I currently am a business owner on the boardwalk, as many of you already know. And my biggest concern is the gentrification is taking place along the waterfront. I am not opposed to the city moving forward. I'm concerned about the direction in which we are moving forward. And it doesn't mean necessarily going backwards either. Many of you will remember the Monte Carlo pool that you have fond memories of. My memories aren't necessarily so fond because during my lifetime I was denied access to the Monte Carlo pool. And when I look at what's happening now with the beachfront development, it actually brings back some of those memories. So my concern is that I would like the development to be very mindful. Believe me, we still have plenty of vacant lots in Asbury Park that are owned by developers. We'll do something with those first. The issue is that the beachfront is very important, valuable property to all of us who do live in Asbury Park. It's very special. There's not that much beachfront left. So we don't just want a private pool club to go there and think that depicts the vision that we are not including. And that's about it.
Citizens for Oceanfront Preservation, and we have been fighting for the preservation of the oceanfront for 12 years. And this is the best I've ever seen. This is wonderful. So thank you all for coming. And, well, I'm going to try to read it, the lights are dim. The current oceanfront construction of the Asbury Park's boardwalk and parking lot by iStar, the waterfront developer, is a maneuver. It's a maneuver to take over the north end of the oceanfront of Asbury Park through an outdated 2004 permit. It is not for the common good. It is not for the preservation of our public beaches, oceans, lakes, parks, and land. It is not for the health and well-being of our economically inclusive and racially or culturally diverse residents, and for all the creatures that share that beach with us, all the shorebirds, all the fish that are in our ocean. It just, that's all part of it. It's not for them at all. So iStar's action needs to be stopped now to address these moral and threatening issues. Thank you.
Hi friends, my name is Reverend Gil Caldwell. Some of you occasionally read my letters and see other things about me. I celebrated my 85th birthday at Barnes & Noble. So friends, 60 years ago I met Martin Luther King at Boston University School of Theology. He was 29 and I was 24. And I realized then that as I met him there was something special about him. And so I decided then that I would follow him, and his quote that I've used so many times is this: injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere. And therefore that's all. And I guess I've been in Asbury Park for 10 years and I've said, now I know that I'm too old to protest. I can't picket, I'm not ready to go to jail again. I said that I'm hopeful that in Asbury Park I can be a kind of equal opportunity cheerleader and critic. And therefore not protest, but hope that somehow raising my voice will help people begin to change. And so I've come up with a formula in terms of why I'm here. Because I'm concerned about the injustice that this represents. It's important. I've come up with the idea that somehow we in Asbury Park must demonstrate what democracy really is. And of course there's freedom of speech, there's freedom of protest. But my hope always has been here is that there would be negotiation, that somehow there would be a willingness to renegotiate, that there would be a kind of resolution, and then there would be reconciliation. And so that's my hope in this instance. Is therefore, I would say that I heard an African proverb many, many years ago that when elephants fight, only the grass beneath them suffers. I have the feeling that iStar believes that it's the biggest elephant in town.
All right.
And therefore the rest of us are baby elephants. And it just seems to me that somehow we've got to help iStar then to see the light. And I've suggested that just as I noticed that Mercedes automobile engaged in a recall of 1 million vehicles, is it not possible for iStar to recall its plans?
Yes, it is.
And begin again? And to negotiate and renegotiate and say we made a mistake. And somehow iStar, strangely, will be a vehicle that will enable people up to become real in Asbury Park. That's my hope. I hope that's yours also.
Good evening, everyone. So glad to see you here. I'm Pam Lambert, and I've been in the city 18 years or so. I'm going to get in that light so I can read. I've chosen to talk to you just briefly about transparency, which is one of our 3 main issues. Transparency means being able to see through something clearly and thoroughly. Transparent government means that when a government agency acts on behalf of its residents, that act has been explained and understood. We may not agree with the action, but we at least understand it. If this has not happened, then the government agency is not being transparent. There you go. Thank you.
Louder.
If elected officials are not kept apprised of the actions of city employees, those employees are not doing their jobs. That's right. Remember that our elected city council sets policy. They give the city manager his marching orders. They tell him this is what we want to accomplish. Now you make it happen. And by the way, you need to report to us regularly how it's going. It's then up to the City Council to keep residents up to date. City Council meetings are public, and if a resident doesn't hear what she wants to hear, she can stand right up at the microphone and ask for it. If city employees are not keeping the council up to date, there is no way the council can keep residents up to date. Residents are surprised and caught off guard. There is no transparency going on. So, is there anyone to blame when suddenly bulldozers and backhoes are destroying the city's boardwalk and residents are surprised and caught off guard? Is there anyone to blame when reports and plans are published by the city and they conflict with one another, as well as the actions that are going on down at the boardwalk? Is there anyone to point a finger at for not recognizing that the beach and boardwalk destruction that took place this past week is harmful and restrictive to every citizen of Asbury Park? If the situation wasn't recognized for the magnitude of its impact, and residents were surprised and caught off guard, there has been a major lapse in governmental transparency. Were there plans submitted? Were plans approved? Were applications submitted?
Yes.
Oh, I know.
3 hands.
Hello? Can you hear me? Were there plans submitted? Were plans approved? Were applications submitted? Were applications reviewed? Were permits issued? Were participating city boards and commissions notified? Were the necessary county and state officials notified? If so, each one of these activities was an opportunity for transparency. There was none. Our elected officials should have been notified so the issue could have been discussed and reported to residents. We are demanding, as we have so many times in the past, for transparency in the future. If city employees who should have alerted the City Council about what was to happen did not recognize that hundreds and even thousands of residents would be angered and upset about what transpired this past week, then they do not know this community well enough to be employed by this community. Those employees need to be replaced by locals. Thank you. Thank you.
Diana. Diana.
Show them how that bullhorn's used, Diana.
Sorry? Oh yeah, light too. Good, thank you. Hi there, my name is Diana Patet and I'm a resident here in Asbury Park, and I'm also a volunteer of the Jersey Shore chapter of the Surfrider Foundation. For those of you who don't know, Surfrider empowers concerned citizens like me to protect our ocean, beaches, and waves. And what that looks like here on the Jersey Shore is centered around two main things, the environment and beach access. And I can talk a little bit about those two topics as it pertains to the development on the north end of Asbury Park, of its boardwalk. In terms of the environment, we are very concerned about the current development that's proposed because it doesn't reflect this post-superstorm sandy world that we live in, a world that now has new environmental regulations, new flood maps drawn, new stormwater runoff regulations as well. None of the plans reflect that because they've been grandfathered claused into a 2004 environmental regulations. For instance, where we're most concerned is the Fisherman's Parking Lot, which has been mentioned. It is now currently slated to be paved with an impervial coating, which means that when it rains, it will flood. And there's only two ways that water is going to go when that parking lot floods. It's going to go into Deal Lake and it's going to go straight into the ocean, and we cannot have that happen. The other thing is beach access. We at Surfrider and many other communities, concerned citizens here in Asbury Park, have been working to create inclusion at our beaches. We've already heard about the history of exclusion at our beaches. Never before have our beaches been more open, and this plan is all about exclusion. iStar might say, oh, actually, you know, we're not restricting beach access. We have plenty of places that people can get onto the beach. But what they are creating is the illusion of exclusion. And in our world, the illusion of exclusion is exclusion. If you see a boardwalk that was once 65 25 feet go down to 15 feet that terminates to a private beach club. Do you think that beach is for you? No. We want real inclusion on the beach. So we at Surfrider, I'm sure lots of us here too, are not opposed to beach development or coastal development, but it must be responsible, it must reflect current environmental plans, and must create and enforce true inclusion. Thank you.
And I'd like Avery Grant to stand with me.
Hold the mic closer. You gotta get it in there. Let him hold the mic.
All right, I come as one, but I stand as 15,767. I come as one, but I stand as 15,767. My name is Carrie Margaret Butch, and I'm a 20-year resident of Asbury Park, the former executive director of the Asbury Park Consortium, and a board member of the New Jersey Environmental Justice Alliance. I also produced the documentary Greetings from Asbury Park with Christina Iliopoulos, who happens to be holding the bullhorn. The famous Christina E. In 2002, an inept city council, in partnership with a corrupt city manager, brokered a bad deal between a failed developer and an oceanfront acquisition. Asbury was sold for a song, and the planning process began, but never in earnest. Never in earnest. The people of Asbury Park never wanted a private beach club, meandering dunes on the waterfront. They simply wanted to replace the boardwalk and keep it public. I just want to remind you of who lives in Asbury Park. Sorry about that. Let's talk about the city of Asbury Park. Our median household income is $36,512 a year. 30% of our city lives in poverty. Close to 50 to 60% of our community are people of color. Building a private beach club on our waterfront, taking away our 64-foot public boardwalk, and creating a private feeling meandering boardwalk is an absolute insult. An absolute insult. As the planning process ensued, it became clear that this was going to be a developer-driven plan. We're going back to 2002 now. At the time, land use and savvy redevelopment professionals, as usual, the governing and as well as the governing body, abused the residents, the business owners, the working class, the poor people, and minorities by designating and eventually taking their homes, businesses, and churches for private development. Never earnestly including the people, our people, in the planning. The planning was never fair. Kicking people out was heartbreaking and ruined and disrupted many people's lives. Pushing people out and stayed here during the tough years. I say Asbury Park has given enough. We've given our homes, businesses, churches. Let's not give them any more. Let's not give them any more. Personally, I think the developers should take their private beach club and meander on out of here. Mayor and council, assembly people, and assembly people and Senator Gopal, Governor Murphy, Congressman Pallone, stop the insanity. This community is given enough. Save Asbury's waterfront for the public.
Thank you so much, Carrie. No, we don't want to do that now. Thank you so much, Carrie. I'm Avery Grant. I'm a member of the board of directors of the New Jersey Environmental Justice Alliance, and so is Carrie, and she invited me down here. And one thing I'd like to say to you, we're a statewide organization. You have power. Don't think that just you standing here, you can't move mountains. And And I would encourage you, and you heard Reverend Caldwell say that, and I would say to you, how many believe in climate change? Let me see how many believe in that. All right, and that's a big concern. As the city engineer and public works director for East Orange, by now I would have had my troops out there plowing snow. And if you've been to Alaska, you see the icebergs melting. And what's he going to do to the coast there? This is a fragile coastline. And you saw what happened to Sandy because of this. And we have kids who are planting seaweed and things like that to protect the ocean. The other thing we do, the coastline, the other thing we do, we try to protect the diversity of the community. You know, we fight for this country to keep a diverse community because we love our neighbors and our people. And this thing doesn't take that into account. They said, no, we're going to make an exclusive area and cut out on public access to the ocean. And that's bad because Asbury Park has been identified as one of the best coastal cities in the country. So here you're going to come along and destroy that? You can't do that. And we as the New Jersey Environmental Justice Line, we stand to support you. And last I say to you, you have power. And by this participation here, the word gets out. So please, please stay strong. And we'll be here to support you.
Working, Eric.
Well, I'm Assemblyman Hotelling. Somebody went down, he could not be here tonight. But I'm glad to be here in Asbury Park. And you know, as a lifelong resident of Neptune, I have seen the best of Asbury, and I have literally seen what happened to Asbury, and I've seen it resurge of where we are now. Great things are happening here in Asbury. And beachfront is being revived in the North End. You know, there's been a lot of talk about what's going on, but this is something that I have not heard about, so I'm very concerned. As a member of the Deal Lake Commission, that is our buffer. And the way things are with surging tides and the way the environment is going, you know, our Deal Lake is very fragile. I don't know if anybody really realizes the issues we have over there, but you know, we are very concerned about that. And we have our Deal Lake Commissioner over here with us today, so I don't know, maybe he'll say a few words too about the Deal Lake as well. But you know, we have responsibilities, and that is something I think is irresponsible. We have to really concern ourselves with the environment and what we are doing that will affect things as Deal Lake. But also, as someone who has seen the best of Asbury, the worst of Asbury, where we are now, I am very happy with the way things are going up to this point. But I got to tell you one thing: we cannot create a town of have and have-nots, and that's what's happening on the North End over there. And we cannot let that happen here in Asbury Park. So let's stay vigilant on this.
It's great to be with everyone today. I have to say that this is one of, when I learned about this, it's a disgrace, and it's what happened in a bad deal in 2002. Why are we being held responsible for that today? What is going on potentially with not just a Deal Lake and our environment, or the lack of transparency in the project? iStar, and I'm going to call them out, and as someone told me earlier today, you know, you're a state senator, you shouldn't call out a developer, but they are not doing good by this city. They are not doing good by the people here. Even the projects and the work that is done by iStar are not even done by local unions. They're done by people that are out of the area. So we have a moral responsibility that we need to take care of the people of the city of Asbury Park first and foremost, not a corporation who's going by a deal that happened 16 years ago. So everything you do, it's about people. And we need to hold these guys accountable. We need to make sure they know that there's a lot of us, and we need to know that developers like them are worried about one thing. They're worried about money, and we need to hit them where it hurts. We need to organize and continue to organize and make sure they hold up this plan and not tear another piece of that boardwalk. Thank you all of you for being here.
Bob Rockwell from West Allenhurst, lifelong resident on Deal Lake. My parents came here in 1941, and I've been around since '57, so it's a couple of years. Huh? So you know, I know the area, I love the area, I love the lake, I love Asbury Park. But I'm from a Deal Lake Commission. Infrastructure is everything. The infrastructure, the fragile infrastructure by the ocean is being changed. We have no clue. Deal Lake Commission has never been notified in my 6 years of what's going on down. We would like to know. We would like to have this stop until we can get our engineers to look at that and see what we can do. And we'd like to have some resiliency there. We'd like to have some buffer between the ocean. And I love the park. I love the park. And I think that's got to be retained. But we also got to blend in infrastructure and protection of water. As somebody mentioned about the fish, we got herring, we got shad coming through. I don't want that interrupted at all with this project. And then as you go down further, the boardwalk. What the hell were they thinking, huh? It's crazy. You know, as a young kid of 5 years old, I was there in '62 sitting on the boardwalk. It was destroyed by a northeaster that year. And here we are, we're going to extend, we're going to push out the boardwalk on between 6 and 7, which it just amazes me, because I thought the redevelopment, I thought Asbury Park controlled everything, you know, east of the boardwalk. Well, I didn't realize we're going to lose that on the north end, and we should revisit that like everybody's talking about. Thank you very much.
Captain Paul, are you here, Captain Paul?
Right there. Yeah, well. No captain, no. Volunteers.
Hi, my name is Paul Lyman.
Louder.
There you go. Hey, my name is Paul Lyman, and I'm a local fisherman, and I love the North Beach. I'm not going to read any of this because you guys have said a lot of it, but I'm here to talk for those that can't talk, and that's the animals. Thank you. I mean, the north end of this beach represents a lot more than just a pool and a beach and a boardwalk. This represents like a mini ecosystem at the base of Deal Lake, okay? So what we have here is a historic spawning ground for river herring, for other anadromous species to go up into the lake, into Deal Lake, and spawn. And I'm really concerned that they're going to extend this parking lot all the way to the existing flume, which, by the way, we paid $7 million for in 2005, just so these fish could access Deal Lake. And they still have yet to come up with a plan to remove the sediment and debris that gathers into the entrance that prohibits these fish from entering and exiting that pipe. So I, for one, I mean, I walk my dog here, I fish here. I love the really casual, free, and just, it's just a great spot. And I'd like to see that as a refuge from what's proposed here. It's going to be just like Long Branch, and I don't want to see that, okay? Thank you.
Over the board.
So I'm Tim Dillingham. I'm with the American Littoral Society. We're a coastal conservation organization up in Sandy Hook. And I'm really glad to be here with you all, and thank you all for turning out. We've been involved in lots of fights about public access to our shore and our waters, and protecting the New Jersey shore from inappropriate development. I'm not lucky enough to live in Asbury Park, but I have sent my kids up here to work, and I've come to love the city. And it's just, you know, it's a city on the rise, and it's a city that's looking towards a bright future, but really respecting and proud of its past. And there's two really key elements to all of that. One is our people that live here, that come here to visit, that love this place, and the other is the waterfront and the ocean and the resources and the beauty of the coastline. And those are the things we have to remember as we stand up against this ill-thought-out development. We know that we have to be concerned about the vulnerability of the coastline. Sandy taught us that. We have to be concerned about accessibility. We need to make sure that everybody in the state, not just in Asbury Park, has access to that water. That's the public trust there. That is the biggest open space that belongs to you and I and around this state. And lastly, we have to think about sustainability. We have an opportunity to rebuild, think about how we live along this coastline so that we make ourselves less vulnerable to the storms. We bring back the wonderful wildlife, the plovers, the herring, so that through the benefit and joy that brings us to our lives. Lastly, the 2002 or 2004 permit is not the end of the world, it's not the end of the road, and it sure as hell isn't the last word on anything. Particularly if iStar thinks about the fact that they want to be here for a long time, you probably ought to be good neighbors. And there's opportunities to renegotiate what's right in this permit and to get the development right, and go back to the beach, make sure it's reserved for the public, and make sure it's good for the environment. Thank you.
Hi, good evening everybody. Can you hear me okay? Yeah. Thank you all so much for coming out on this pretty glorious evening. It was a great, beautiful day, and I'm sure many of you wanted to go for a walk on the boardwalk or just enjoy the ocean front. It is spectacular in the fall, and it belongs not just to every one of us, but also the marine life. And I'm going to be really short because everyone's really been has great speakers and has said it all, but I just want to say there's no possible way iStar didn't get the memo that developing on a beach is a bad idea after, Superstorm Sandy. The fact that they're coming back and pursuing this reckless development that the community has been fighting for over 20 years is just unacceptable. And I agree with so many of what's been said, that you all have the power is in the people, the power is in Town Hall, where we're going next to let the mayor know that the people of this community do not want to see the North End developed. The North End should be a refuge for the people, as has been said, and for the wildlife that depends on a healthy environment. There's not all that much left, and every bit of it's precious, and every inch of pavement pollutes. Every inch of impervious building pollutes. This area doesn't need any more of that. We have enough pollution already, and we're working on addressing those through a variety of measures. But let's save the North End for nature and for development that is not hardcore, that is soft, that will enable all of us to enjoy it for future generations, and will also be a buffer for the next big storm. So thank you all for turning out. Thank you for supporting your community. This evening is fantastic, and whatever we can do to help you, thank you so much.
Right up here, man. All the way.
Thanks again for everyone. Thanks to everyone again for coming out tonight, and a special thanks to our community leaders and our elected officials that were here tonight to offer us public support. So again, I'm here to represent Save Asbury's Waterfront. We want to encourage appropriate, responsible, transparent development along our waterfront and preserve our ocean environment. Yes.